Hello and welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Here's a look at what's lined up for you on the show tonight. Our cover story tonight is about a war that is being fought in the artificial world but comes with real dangers. I am talking about the impact of artificial intelligence on our lives. There's no running away. In fact, the impact is taking a deadly turn with each passing day. Here's what happened in just the last 24 hours. An AI-generated fake image of an attack on the Pentagon went viral. It triggered a series of reactions and a debate. On Gravitas tonight, we ask, is this the start of something bigger? Will artificial intelligence start a war? Where really are things headed? We discuss. Also on the show for you tonight, we get you a story of the dark war in Ukraine, the war of information and narratives that is being waged by intel groups from both sides. Prime Minister Narendra Modi delivers a trailblazing address to the Indian diaspora in Sydney. The Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese calls him the real boss. We get you a Gravitas special report. We also get you the biggest highlights from the G20 meeting in Kashmir, the diplomacy, the attendees, and how the meeting has ended up embarrassing Pakistan, to say the least. Not just that, we also discuss the controversy surrounding the Kerala story. Are the claims made in the movie exaggerated or are they rooted in reality? We decode this. Can artificial intelligence start a war? It caused dangerous tremors last night. Have you seen this picture? It surfaced on the internet last night. The picture shows a huge plume of black smoke, and in the background is what looks like the Pentagon, the seat of US defense. The last time this building came under attack was 9/11. The iconic Twin Towers were destroyed by terrorists. America invaded Afghanistan. So was panic going to repeat itself? Bloomberg feed, by the way, shared this picture. The tweet read, "Large explosion near the Pentagon complex in Washington, D.C. Initial report." And within 4 minutes, the Dow Jones Industrial Index dropped 85 points. The market was reacting to an attack on America and bracing for the impact for America's response, because there was no way the White House was going to sit still following an attack on the Pentagon. Was a war on the horizon? Media houses around the world were quick to pick up the news. The Russian state news agencies put out this tweet. Over 100 people retweeted it within minutes. In India as well, news outlets wasted no time in breaking the news. Word spread like wildfire, and it was accompanied by the fear of the unknown. And there were multiple questions. Who had attacked America? How many people had been injured? Were there deaths? And will more attacks follow? The fire department of Arlington County soon put out a tweet. It said the department is aware of the report circulating online, but there is no explosion or incident taking place at or near the Pentagon reservation. A Pentagon spokesperson also confirmed that the report was fake. The Pentagon was not attacked today, quote unquote, is what the spokesperson said. So what really was this picture all about then? Nothing more than what appears to be a product of AI, artificial intelligence. And turns out the verified account that shared the picture had nothing to do with Bloomberg News either. It was also fake. But how were you supposed to know that? Twitter responded by suspending that fake account. Too little, too late, is it? But that's not where the story ends. It's the start of the big question that we are asking tonight. Can artificial intelligence start a war? I know what some of you may be thinking. The people on top will do due diligence before sounding the war bugle and responding to such reports, won't they? Sure, in theory, they should. But you see, in reality, there is very little, very little time. Every second, every microsecond is extremely precious during a crisis that could go nuclear. And those on the front lines of missile wars have minimal reaction time. The consequences of delay might be too horrific to contemplate. Else you risk being struck by a missile if you don't activate your anti-missile system fast enough. And that is how our top defense officials are trained. Scanning a photo for discrepancies or waiting for a fact checker to look at the photo or video is not a part of war protocol, which is where AI becomes an extremely dangerous weapon. And it's not always that you have a fire department or a person stepping in to avert a disaster or World War III. Let me tell you a story, a real story from 1983. On the 25th of September, a computer system alerted Soviet defense forces that America had launched a single intercontinental ballistic missile and that the missile would strike Russia in 12 minutes. And soon the computer flashed a second warning. 5 nuclear missiles were on the way towards Soviet Union. And how exactly did the computer know this? Well, its reading was based on the data from the Soviet Union's launch detection satellites. The computer system claimed that chances of an attack or a nuclear attack was 100%. Now, this was a Cold War era, mind you. Tensions were high, suspicion even higher. And here you had satellite readings telling you that America had launched a nuclear weapon. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov was in the secret bunker where the computer flashed the warning, and he was convinced the system had a bug. So the first time when it warned about the ICBM, Petrov phoned his superiors and told them that it was a false alarm. And the next time when the nuclear warning was flashed, Petrov should ideally have informed the superiors, who would then ensure that Moscow also pressed the nuclear button and started what would invariably be the countdown to a nuclear holocaust and what cockroaches would remember as World War III. Instead, Petrov chose to do nothing. And he took a huge risk, by the way, and saved millions of lives. But what really is the guarantee that you will have a Petrov in every high office telling his or her superiors that what the computer is flashing is a fake photo, or what a verified Twitter handle is saying or putting out is nothing but an AI-generated fake image? And the answer is there is no guarantee. What we have instead is a rising risk of AI triggering something unintended. You see, the times we are living in many ways, are not too different from the Cold War situation. Tensions between the West and Russia are running at an all-time high, with the West being just a stray bullet strike away from being completely pulled into the war. What if artificial intelligence stages that stray strike, numbs our sixth sense and forces commanders to declare war? Or what happens if tomorrow a fake photo claims an attack on Ukraine's seat or the presidential palace? Will this trigger panic? Of course it will. But what it will also likely and very likely do is trigger a chain of events that will snowball into a catastrophe. Because let's face it, it was the Pentagon, the Arlington County was able to quickly run a ground check and stop the rumor mill. Think of claims of an airstrike on a remote part of America or some remote countryside in Europe. How exactly will one immediately run a fact check is the immediate question. Which information will the armed forces trust at that point in time? After all, Twitter verification is up for sale, can be bought for just a few dollars. Media houses are in the business of breaking news first and fact-checking later. A verified Twitter page that shared the AI-generated photo of the Pentagon Blast, the supposed Pentagon Blast, apologized, saying that the incident was an example of how, quote-unquote, easily these sort of images can be used to manipulate the information space and how dangerous this could be in the future. And it's right. Except that the future is already here. The risk of an AI-generated war is here. And you and I need to be really, really worried. And we've said this in the past. The war in Ukraine is not just a military battle. It is also a battle of intelligence, a battle of narratives, a battle that is silently being waged in the shadows. You know, from the media to the diplomats to spying agencies to secret organizations. They are all equally waging this war, trying to change the course of the battle. Case in point, of course, being the Nord Stream sabotage. A series of clandestine bombings and gas leaks that occurred on Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines. And till today, there is no consensus on who really was behind this. The Russians, the Ukrainians, the Americans, no one really knows. In the last 8 months, there have only been accusations, there's been speculation. Ukraine has accused Russia of causing the leaks. Russia has accused a pro-Ukraine group for it. And some journalists say the American government carried out the sabotage. And Germany has now added a new twist to the tale. Have a look at this report. German investigators are pursuing leads which could implicate Ukraine for the blast, and the investigators say they have examined Moscow's naval maneuvers around the site of the blast, and they are unconvinced of any Russian sabotage. Not just that, the report further states that German authorities have singled out 2 other Ukrainians who were on board the yacht which was used for the blast. And one of them apparently served in Ukraine's army. And this was just one example of this dark war. On your screen now is example number 2. Russia has accused Ukraine of sending a sabotage group across the border. The Kremlin says the Russian president has been informed about this cross-border incursion, adding that Moscow believed that the attack was designed to, quote-unquote, divert attention from the situation in Bakhmut. And Russia has also released a video. It claims to show a ground assault on a border checkpost in Belgorod. Moscow says this attack was carried out by the group that was behind the incursion. And what does Ukraine have to say about this? Has it claimed responsibility for the incursion? Well, not really. Here's what the Ukrainian presidential advisor, Mikhailo Podolyak, said in a statement. Let me just quote from it. Ukraine is watching the events in the Belgorod region of Russia with interest and is studying the situation, but has nothing to do with it. So who then was behind the attack is the immediate question. Well, a group called the Free Russia Legion, which says that its ranks are made up of Russians, claim to be behind these attacks in Belgorod. And reports say this group operates under the umbrella of Ukraine's International Legion, a fighting force overseen by the Ukrainian officers. Ukrainian officials are seeking to cast the unit's action as proof of division among the Russians. But it's not clear whether the group had acted on its own volition or under the direction of the Ukrainian officers. And these were just two reports. There are many more instances of secret missions, many more examples of sabotage operations. And they all, by the way, indicate one thing, that this war is no longer restricted to the governments of Russia and Ukraine. It has now expanded to anti-Russia and anti-Ukraine bodies on both sides, as the intel agencies of both the countries fight their own parallel battles. And why would they not? Because these agencies are able to pull off what the armies are unable to do. Ever since the war started, various observers and think tanks have said that Russian spies are more effective than the army, that they have achieved a greater degree of success in Ukraine than the Russian military, which has suffered numerous setbacks. And then you have this report. This is from July last year. It talks about how Ukraine was trying to lure Russian pilots by offering them bribes and European citizenship in return for Russian warplanes. Things were going as per plan until a Russian spy in the guise of a pilot's girlfriend spilled the beans. And these stories only reiterate the point I just made. The war in Ukraine is not just a military battle, it is also a battle of intelligence and narratives. And moving on, India is hosting the G20 Tourism Meet in Jammu and Kashmir. All members except China are attending. The rich culture of Kashmir is on display, and only a few years ago this would have been unimaginable in Kashmir, courtesy the high rates of terrorism. But you see, things have changed, and how? So much so that Kashmir is hosting a high-level event like the G20 meeting. Have a look at this video. The delegates dance to the tunes of Oscar-winning Indian song, Natu Natu. And they also enjoyed an illuminated shikara ride in the famous Dal Lake. Many were moved by the scenic beauty of Kashmir. Listen to this yourself.
We have seen many beautiful sights in Srinagar. We are very touched by the hospitality of citizens in Srinagar. We are very, very thankful for this opportunity.
Meanwhile, around 60 delegates attended, and earlier today our correspondent Idris Lone spoke to Amitabh Kant. Listen in to what he had to say.
On the second day of G20's working group meeting on tourism, I'm joined by G20 Sherpa, Mr. Amitabh Kant. Sir, welcome to WION. Sir, can you tell us about your experience? How has it's been so far holding a G20 meeting in Kashmir Valley?
It's been a fascinating experience, extremely well managed, well organized, very well done. The cultural show yesterday was magnificent. Today's discussions have gone on very well. The roadmap for tourism has been approved by all the countries just now. And yesterday, the side event on film tourism had a really outstanding response. So I think the meeting in Kashmir has gone off very well.
Turkey and Saudi Arabia sent private tourism sector officials. And what about China? Well, it was not present, courtesy its claims on Indian territory. And what else could you expect from China? But you see, Turkey's presence is a win for India and a diplomatic betrayal to Pakistan. You see, Erdogan's government has supported Pakistan over the Kashmir issue. But now it sent representatives to attend the meeting. Even though they were not at the ministerial level, a win is still a win. And speaking of winning, things are looking up for Kashmir, of course. The tourism sector has shown an unprecedented growth. A record 18.4 million tourists visited Jammu and Kashmir in 2022. 20,000 of them were foreigners. In the last financial year, tourism contributed to 7% of Jammu and Kashmir's GDP. After 3 decades, the new film policy and ease of doing business have once again made the Union Territory a favorite destination for film shootings. Jammu and Kashmir is redefining its relationship with Bollywood. Cinema halls are once again opening. There are initiatives to open new sports clubs as well. And this is what Amitabh Kant said on this.
Today there are 370 films being shot in Kashmir, OTT films, many other. This is the greatest destination for film shooting.
But what's really going on at the other side of the border? Here's what Pakistan-occupied Kashmir looks like. You will be disappointed. Terrorism is high, tourism is low, and in a lead-up to G20, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari visited POK. He cried foul over the tourism meeting in Kashmir, called it illegal, in fact. The delegates still came. They danced and enjoyed, of course, in Kashmir. They praised Kashmir and India. And all Pakistan and China could do was sulk. And now, let's now tell you more about what's happening in Pakistan. It's witnessing an exodus. And this exodus is not to another country. This exodus is unfolding within one of Pakistan's largest political parties. I'm talking about the PTI, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the party of Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Well, too bad for him. His own leaders are stepping down one after the other. They are quitting the party, and the biggest jolt so far came just this evening, just a few hours ago. Have a look at this report. Shireen Mazari, one of the PTI's senior-most leaders, has announced her resignation from the party. And this is a big blow both to the PTI and to Imran Khan, who have of late been involved in numerous controversies. Now, for the unversed, Shireen Mazari is Pakistan's former human rights minister. She had been a member of the National Assembly of Pakistan since August 2018 and served as a chief whip for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Previously, she was a member of the National Assembly from June 2013 to May 2018. So why has she resigned? What we do know is that her resignation came after a series of setbacks. She had been subjected to multiple arrests in recent days amid the protests triggered by the arrest of Imran Khan. And most recently, Mazari was re-arrested after a court in Gujranwala granted her bail. In a case pertaining to the vandalism witnessed at defence and public installations, this included the official residence of the Lahore Corps commander and the general headquarters of the Pakistan Army in Rawalpindi. Now, interestingly, during one of her arrests, Mazari was taken away in a Vigo, a vehicle usually used by members of intel agencies without a number plate. And this begs the question, has she resigned under duress? Was she blackmailed into leaving the party? And these are questions the PTI must definitely be pondering upon. And here's why I say this. Immediately after her resignation, Mazari held a press conference in which she condemned the violence that took place after Imran Khan's arrest. She said, and I'm quoting, "Not only the May 9 and 10 violence, but I have always condemned every kind of violence, especially against state institutions and symbols like the General Headquarters, Supreme Court, and the Parliament." And from where we see it, this statement seems quite bizarre. Mazari was one of Imran Khan's closest aides. Her resignation, followed by an open condemnation of the attacks of the PTI supporters, seems suspicious to say the least. And what's worse, she's not the only PTI leader who has resigned recently. For the last 2 weeks now, one leader after another has called it quits. It started with Mahmood Maulvi, a senior PTI leader and member of the National Assembly. He parted ways with the party. This was last Tuesday. This was, of course, over the countrywide riots that followed Imran Khan's arrest. And the very next day, 3 more PTI leaders jumped ship. Amer Mahmood Kiani, Sanjay Gangwani, Karim Gabol, they all left the party citing the same reason, the violence that followed Imran Khan's arrest. And 2 days later, there were 3 more resignations. This time of former Minister Iqbal Wazir, Balochistan Assembly member Mohammad Mobeen Khan, and former PTI parliamentarian Malik Hussain. Now, reports say overall a total of 19 PTI members have resigned. 19, with the possibility of more leaders following suit, so that number could go up. And what should we make of this? Why are so many leaders deserting the party and Imran Khan? Is this out of fear that they too will be targeted like their leader? Or are they genuinely upset at the events that unfolded after their leader's arrest? Or have they been offered better deals by those in power? Well, the PTI says that most of the people who have resigned are apparent weaklings, that their failure to secure party tickets and their already precarious relationship with the leadership made them easy pressure targets. But is the party trying to save face by saying all this? It certainly seems so. Earlier this month, the release of a movie sparked a massive controversy in India. This movie centers around alleged religious indoctrination in the state of Kerala. I'm talking about the Kerala story, quote unquote. A movie that has triggered a firestorm. The furor is primarily about the claims that have been made in the movie. When the teaser of the movie was released, it said that nearly 32,000 women have been forcefully converted. But then these numbers were changed and brought down to 3. The filmmaker said that while the claims may have been incorrect, the focal point of the movie remained the issue of conversion, an issue that has been raised time and again. And over the last decade, various studies have brought conversion stories from Kerala to light. In 2012, reports claimed that over 2,500 women were converted to Islam in Kerala since 2006. In 2016, another claim was made. This one said that nearly 6,000 converted to Islam in Kerala in 5 years. And with passing years, the religious affiliations of these claims have changed. Some say 60% Kerala converts chose Hinduism, while others say at 47%, Hinduism is the biggest gainer in religious conversion in Kerala. But you see, the point is, these claims of conversion have persisted. Now, ever since the movie release, these controversies are no more limited to India. They have reached the United Kingdom. Visuals surfaced from a screening in Birmingham, where people were seen protesting against the movie. The Kerala story has now gone global, perhaps in contention. Amid the debate where different sides are being picked, the Kerala government has released an advertisement. It's called The Real Kerala Story. It was released in major national dailies and was tweeted by the Chief Minister of Kerala. It calls Kerala a jewel in India's crown. Further, it highlights Kerala as a weaver of social harmony, progressive values, inclusive development. It calls the real Kerala story as the one where dreams flourish, humanity thrives, and everyone is empowered. The ad also lists Kerala's achievements in the last 2 years and claims that the state has emerged as an exemplar of people-centric progress. And since its release, the film has received support and also disdain. While some have praised it, some have refused to screen it at cinemas in a bid to prevent communal harmony from being disrupted. And as the controversy around the movie continues, we don't know what the exact conversion numbers look like or whether the number quoted in the film is real or an exaggeration. But conversion is a reality. Tonight, let me take a moment and introduce you to 4 very special names: Ishita Kishore, Garima Lohia, Uma Harathi, and Smriti Mishra. These women have bagged top 4 spots in India's civil services examination. The Union Public Services Commission, or the UPSC, released the list of candidates who cleared the civil services exam for the year 2022, and these 4 names have topped the list. Not just that, out of the top 10 spots, 6 have been bagged by women. You see, it's not every day that we celebrate our women, but today is different. Though it is not the first time that this is happening, year after year, women are climbing up the merit list. They are bagging the top spot in what is known to be the toughest examination in the country. And this has been a trend for a while now. Women also secured the top spot in 2021, also 2016, 2015, 2014. And each year, we of course celebrated their story, their strength, their struggles, and their journey. But what happens next? What happens to these women toppers? Do they go on to become top bureaucrats, or do they get lost on their way to the top? That's the question I want to ask tonight. And why am I asking this question? You see, in India, a civil servant can climb up to the position of a cabinet secretary. That's the top position for a civil servant. But if I ask you, how many women cabinet secretaries has India had so far? The answer is 0. You heard that right. Even after 76 years of independence, India has not had a single woman cabinet secretary, not one. In fact, just 14% of the secretaries to the Indian government are women. There are just 3 women chief secretaries across Indian states and union territories combined. Further, there have been no women secretaries of Home, Finance, or Defense. So where do the women rank holders go? Tonight, let me also ask you, who was the first woman civil servant of India? Her name was Anna Raja Malhotra. She joined the services in 1951, some 7 decades ago. But do you know that her appointment letter came with a condition? It said if she got married, she would be thrown out. There was no such condition for male civil servants. Decades have passed since Anna's recruitment. And though times have changed, biases still remain. Their show might have become subtle, but even today, the odds are tightly stacked against women in public services. And the fact that we are struggling to spot women at top leadership roles in public services is a sign enough. Clearly, the question here is not about merit, because if that was the case, women would not be making it to the top of the list. And not only the civil services list, by the way. Various other lists like that of board examinations or state services. So then, does this become a question of opportunity? Maybe it does, because years later, equality eludes public services in India. And why does that happen? Because even after entering the workforce, a woman's momentum is broken. The society ties her to various shackles, patriarchal conditioning, marriage, balancing the family commitments, moving to different cities for her partner, avoiding distant transfers. These are just some of the reasons that force women in the services stop them from climbing up the leadership ladder. In fact, there is a general perception that women should be preferred for soft ministries, quote unquote, like social, welfare, culture, women and child development. It is noteworthy that even in apex services like civil services, more women take early retirement as compared to their male counterparts. And whether a woman is a topper or not, there is a set pattern that the society expects her to follow. A chalked path that is based on gender stereotyping and backed by years of patriarchal conditioning. Despite making it to various merit lists, women get lost on their way to the top. Some do it by choice, some are forced into the sacrifice, while some may make peace with it, others might not. So coming back to the question, what happens to these women toppers? Though they are entering the services on merit, the bigger question is, are enough of them serving their tenure with parity postings? Perhaps they are falling prey to lack of opportunities and gender stereotyping. And our next story is from India, where the rising mercury levels have been making headlines. A heat wave warning earlier was issued for some parts of India. Our next report telling you more.
The Indian capital has had quite a sweaty start to the week, with the mercury touching the 46 degrees Celsius mark on Monday. Delhiites have been bearing the brunt of an intense heat wave. The city has been reeling under scorching heat for several days, leaving power grids strained. And it is not just the capital. As India witnesses a heat wave condition, the Indian Meteorological Department on Tuesday released the list of hottest cities in the country. Apart from Delhi, Gwalior, Bikaner, Jhansi, Patiala featured on the list. A heat wave-like condition has been prevalent in the Delhi NCR region. The IMD has predicted that similar conditions would continue before rains bring some relief from Wednesday onwards across India. The department had earlier issued a heatwave warning for multiple parts of North India, including the national capital. Heatwave conditions can result in physiological strain and can also prove fatal. What can you do? How can you beat the heat? To minimize the impact during the heatwave and to prevent serious ailment or death because of heat stroke, avoid going out in the sun, especially between 12 o'clock noon and 3 p.m. Even if you are not thirsty, stay hydrated and drink sufficient water as often as possible. When stepping out in the sun, try and wear clothes that are lightweight and porous. A protective hat or umbrella go a long way in giving you the much-needed protection from the blistering heat. You should also try and avoid strenuous activities when the outside temperature is high. Do not leave children or pets in parked vehicles. If you feel faint or ill, see a doctor immediately. Use ORS and homemade drinks to rehydrate the body. And keep animals in shade and give them plenty of water to drink. As per the Weather Office, when actual maximum temperature reaches 45 degrees Celsius or more for 2 consecutive days, a heat wave is declared over the station. Meanwhile, in the state of Gujarat, when the city of Ahmedabad witnessed temperatures of 48 degrees Celsius in 2016 and nearly 46 degrees Celsius last year. To deal with the impact that such high temperatures could have on businesses, a heat insurance is offering relief to workers. This month, 21,000 self-employed women in the state enrolled in one of the world's first insurance schemes for extreme heat. If temperatures climb high enough above historical averages, and linger there for 3 days, workers receive a payout to help compensate for the lost income. As per the WHO, heat waves in India typically occur from March to June, and in some rare cases even extend till July. On an average, 5 to 6 heat wave events occur every year in the northern parts of the country.
Let's now shift focus to Brazil. The world's biggest chicken meat exporter has declared an animal health emergency following its first ever detection of the H5N1 virus in birds. And experts say the virus is now capable of spreading to wild mammals and human beings as well. Our next report getting you the details.
The world has seen an unprecedented number of bird flu outbreaks since 2021. A virus which has affected more than 80 different bird species. Now, Brazil seems to have come under attack. The South American nation has detected its first ever cases of the H5N1 virus. The government has declared an animal health emergency for 180 days. After detecting 7 cases in Espírito Santo state and 1 in Rio de Janeiro state. The Agriculture Ministry has set up an emergency center to counter the virus. Although the World Organization for Animal Health says that the H5N1 infection in wild birds does not trigger trade bans. A single case of bird flu can result in an entire flock being killed. This can easily trigger trade restrictions from importing countries. You see, the new cases of bird flu are a big concern for Brazil, as it is the world's biggest chicken meat exporter. In 2022, Brazil punched in over $9.7 billion in global sales. The government is now afraid that the avian flu could infect commercial flocks. How does the virus spread to other birds? The virus can spread through saliva, nasal secretions, feces, or through contaminated feed. Brazil is witnessing the virus, which was first discovered in China. Scientists say the virus has mutated and can now be seen spreading to wild mammals, like seals, otters, dolphins, wild dogs, and foxes. The World Organization for Animal Health says that the H5N1 avian influenza may become better adapted to mammals and soon spill over to humans. This might soon come true, as the WHO says that 870 people were infected over the past 20 years. This also led to 457 deaths. So what can we do to tackle a probable outbreak? Vaccination is an option. China has been vaccinating its domestic poultry, but other countries avoid it because it's difficult to judge which bird is immune and which one's not. Strict export controls are also imposed on vaccinated flocks. Thus, they cannot be sold abroad. Despite the commercial drawbacks, countries like France, the Netherlands, and the US have begun trials of new vaccines. Will humans also need to get vaccines for bird flu? Will Brazil be able to stop the spread of the virus? We will have to wait and watch. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
A brother and sister have been reunited after 75 years of being separated. The long-lost siblings originally belonged from pre-partitioned India. And how did the siblings find each other? And how did they react when they actually met each other? Have a look at these visuals. A long-lost brother and sister embracing after all those years, 75 years. Family members reuniting, generations of relatives witnessing the unforgettable moment. This is the story of Mahendra Kaur and Sheikh Abdul Aziz. The sister, Mahendra Kaur, at the age of 81, travelled from India to Pakistan to meet her brother, Sheikh Abdul Aziz, who who is 78 years old. And before we tell you how they actually found each other, let's just look at how both of them were split up. It all happened in 1947 when the British rule in India was dissolved and India and Pakistan became independent dominions. During this tumultuous time, Aziz got torn away from his family in India. He was relocated in what is called POK, or Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. After spending years trying to get in touch with his family, he got married at a young age and he had a family of his own. So how did he end up getting reunited with his family? Well, through the power of social media. Aziz's family members said that they came across a social media post which mentioned the separation of a man and his sister during partition. People discovered that Aziz and Mahendra were the ones being talked about, and the two families got in touch after that. And that's when Mahendra Kaur and her family travelled from India to Gurdwara Darbar Sahib in Kartarpur. She travelled via the Kartarpur corridor, also known as the corridor of love, peace and reunification, an apt name for the moment that was to come. The siblings met while their families stood in awe. The two embraced with their eyes swelling up and expressed their sadness for the loss of their parents. The two families visited the Gurdwara Darbar Sahib Kartarpur. They sat side by side, shared a meal and exchanged gifts as a symbol of their reunion. The 1947 partition, you see, was more than just politics or a geographical divide. It broke away families and relationships. People were starved of creating memories with their loved ones. And the story of Aziz and Mahendra is just one of the thousands. And let's just hope social media continues to bring families together and dissolve the unpleasant memories of the partition. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. We are leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching.